Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into another fascinating mystery. Tonight, we're tackling one of the most intriguing UFO sightings in recent history, the Trumbull County UFO Incident. Just picture it. December 14th, 1994, quiet Liberty Township, Ohio. Night falls, and all of a sudden, multiple residents start reporting this massive, triangular object hovering in the sky.
Yeah, and this wasn't just some quick blip on a radar screen or, a fleeting glimpse. The thing that makes this case stand out is the mountain of evidence we're talking about. Numerous eyewitness accounts, photographs, even video footage. It's one of the most well-documented UFO sightings out there.
Okay, so let's unpack these eyewitness accounts. What were people actually seeing and hearing? What did they report?
Well, a lot of people describe this triangular craft with these bright pulsating lights. Some said they heard a low hum. Others said it was completely silent. I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie. But what's really fascinating is the level of detail in some of these reports. Like one police officer even described seeing the object seemingly scanning the ground with a beam of light.
Wait, hold on. A beam of light scanning the ground. What could that even be?
Right. That's the question, isn't it? It's one of those details that just begs for an explanation. And get this, there's another witness who described seeing smaller orbs, like actually entering and exiting the larger craft.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, these specific details, they just add this layer of complexity that you can't just ignore.
This is already mind-blowing, but it gets even crazier. Some people who saw it reported feeling physical effects during the sighting. We're talking dizziness, nausea, even disorientation.
Yeah.
Intense fear. It wasn't just a visual thing. Some people felt it physically and emotionally.
Yeah, and those physical reactions, I mean, that adds a whole other dimension to this, doesn't it?
Yep.
We're talking about potential electromagnetic effects or maybe even psychological phenomena. But before we jump to any conclusions, let's step back and think about how the authorities reacted to all this.
Good point. You know, the government had to be paying attention to this. So what did their investigation uncover? What did they find?
Well, the Federal Aviation Administration, they took the lead on the investigation. They did a bunch of interviews, analyzed all the radar data, and flight records from that night really went through it all. But their official report, it concluded that there was no unusual aircraft activity.
Hold on a second. No unusual aircraft activity. How could they say that? With all those eyewitness accounts and pictures and videos? I mean, come on.
I know, right? And that's exactly why this conclusion led to so much speculation about a cover-up. A lot of people just couldn't accept that something so well documented, with so much evidence, could just be dismissed like that. And here's the thing. There were reports of military presence in the area after the sighting, even though officials denied it. That lack of transparency, it really got people wondering what was really going on.
So we have this massive UFO sighting, incredibly detailed accounts, and then the government investigation just seems to hit a dead end. It's like this giant question mark hanging over Liberty Township. What was the impact on the community itself? What happened there?
Well, imagine you're living in this small, quiet town, and suddenly you're right at the center of a possible UFO sighting. It had this huge impact. For some people, it created a wave of anxiety and fear. I mean, some residents just wanted to forget the whole thing ever happened, But others, they became almost obsessed with figuring it out, like really obsessed. The whole incident, it really divided the community.
It must have been so unsettling not knowing what to believe or who to trust.
Oh, absolutely. And then there's the economic side of things, too. Liberty Township all of a sudden became this, UFO hotspot. Tourists and researchers started pouring in.
Wow, so like people were selling alien T-shirts and stuff.
Pretty much. They had UFO-themed souvenirs, guided tours, the whole 9 yards. It really put the town on the map in a way no one expected.
That's wild. A potential close encounter turning into a tourist trap. It really goes to show how these things can just completely change a community. But let's talk about the theories. What are some of the explanations people have come up with?
Well, there's a whole range of ideas, everything from the plausible to the totally out there. Some folks think it was a secret military aircraft, like some kind of prototype we've never heard of before. Others, of course, go straight to extraterrestrial spacecraft. And then you've got the people who are really into the fringe theories, like time travel or interdimensional portals.
Time travel and interdimensional portals. Now that's getting a little far out there, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. But hey, we're dealing with the unknown here, right? And when you face the unknown, people's imaginations, they tend to run wild. But there is one theory I find particularly interesting, and it actually connects this whole thing to other UFO sightings that were happening around the same time.
You mentioned other sightings before. Are you saying there could be a connection between the Trumbull County event and these other reports? Like, are they all related somehow?
Exactly. See, around the same time as the Trumbull County sighting, there were a bunch of similar reports in Ohio and some of the surrounding states. Like, for example, back in 2008, there were these reports in Pennsylvania describing triangular objects with bright lights. Sound familiar? Really similar to what people saw in Trumbull County. And just like in Trumbull County, some of the witnesses in Pennsylvania said they experienced physical symptoms too. Isn't that interesting?
So could all these sightings be part of something bigger? Like, is there a pattern here?
Well, it's tempting to connect the dots, but we have to be careful. Just because things happen around the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean they're related. We can't completely ignore the less exciting explanations either.
Right.
Some people say that what folks saw could have just been natural phenomena or some weird atmospheric anomaly.
Yeah, like some strange weather patterns or unusual cloud formations. But do those really explain all those consistent descriptions and the physical effects people reported? Doesn't seem likely, does it?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's this back and forth between what we can explain and what we can't that makes the Trumbull County UFO incident so fascinating. It forces us to confront the mysteries of our world and the possibility that there are forces out there that we just don't understand.
Yeah, it's kind of humbling, right? Like this one event makes us really face the limits of our knowledge. But what about the impact it's had in the long term? What's the legacy of the Trumbull County UFO incident?
Well, for one thing, it's become this big part of local folklore. It's inspired books, documentaries, even TV shows. And people are still researching it. You have all these dedicated UFO enthusiasts still trying to get to the bottom of what happened. But maybe the biggest impact is on the people who actually saw it firsthand?
I can't imagine what that would be like, seeing something like that. It must have stayed with them.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of them are still searching for answers, still involved in UFO research, just trying to make sense of what they experienced. It really shows you the power these kinds of events have. They can stick with you, change how you see the world, and make you spend your whole life trying to understand. The whole incident really raises some big questions about our place in the universe, don't you think?
Yeah, it really does. Makes you think about what else could be out there. Are we alone in the universe? I mean, what really did happen that night in Trumbull County? I guess we'll never really know.
Right. Those are the questions that keep us looking up at the sky, with that sense of wonder and curiosity. And we might never have all the answers about what happened in Trumbull County, but it definitely reminds us how much we still don't know about the universe, how much there is still to learn.
It's been so fascinating exploring this case with you. We've gone through those amazing eyewitness accounts, looked at the official investigations, and even thought about some really wild theories. But before we go, do you have any final thoughts for our listeners? Something for them to think about?
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here, but I'm curious, what really stuck with you? What do you think happened in Trumbull County? And maybe even more importantly, how do you think events like this, whether we can explain them or not, how do they change how we understand the universe and our place in it? Those are some big questions to think about.
Such a good point. It really makes us keep an open mind and be okay with the mysteries that are still out there. Maybe someday we'll have all the answers, or maybe the mystery will always be there. Either way, I think I'll be looking up at the night sky a little differently from now on, just in case. Thanks for joining us on this amazing journey into the unknown.